Join me today for another BattleTech book review, this time Blood Will Rise by Tom Leveen. This is the Geek Ball channel. If you've not been here before, my name is Bobbie, and today we're doing a BattleTech book review, Blood Will Rise by Tom Leveen. Had to bust out the flag for this one, because this one is entirely about House Liao. Which we have the House Liao symbol here to tell us that. Also the Il Clan symbol, even though like 2/3 of the book is actually in the Dark Age era, because it starts in 3149 and goes into 3152. So covers a pretty broad expanse of events. So this being a pretty recent book, I'm going to do a spoiler section after I talk about some general things about the book, in case you don't want to be spoiled. So I don't believe I've read any other books by Tom Leveen. He's not a name that I associate with House Liao up until now. But it's fairly well written. No complaints on that front. Definitely be keeping an eye out for other works of his. So Danai Centrella is the primary character. I should say Danai Centrella Liao. And while we are introduced to a number of other characters, the primary characters of concern are Danai, Daoshen Liao, the ruler of House Liao, the Celestial Wisdom, her father, and her mother, Ilsa Liao Centrella, who rules the Magistracy of Canopus and is married to Duke Ares Humphreys, ruler of the Duchy of Anduria. And so Danai is the stated successor for both Daoshen Liao and Ilsa Liao Centrella. And as Ilsa raises the specter, since she's married to Duke Ares Humphreys, and apparently he has no heirs, and she thinks he's going to die before she does, then she'll eventually be the ruler of the Duchy of Anduria as well, and as such Danai stands to inherit all three realms. So against that backdrop, Danai's primary occupation is a mech warrior and the commander of the 2nd Battalion of McCarran's Armored Cavalry, which way back in yesteryear were mercenaries, but eventually became a house unit for House Liao. And they have 5 regiments. I think it's regiments. Apologize. So she's been she's an excellent mech warrior, so she's been leading the charge across worlds that used to belong to the Republic, that used to belong to House Liao, and are now back in House Liao's possession, thanks in part to her efforts. And Daoshen is pushing everything to clear a corridor to try to take Terra. Because number one, he believes that he's the rightful ruler of everything. He also believes himself to be a god. And also because the riches there would potentially enable House Liao to really crank up the war machine, because they already have the largest military and the largest number of battle mechs, jump ships, drop ships, war material. They outstrip basically everybody. But if they were to take Terra, the Earth is the most heavily industrialized planet in BattleTech by far. Plus with the raw materials in places like the asteroid belt, the Terran system, as long as you can start it producing, like you could start producing war material that'll last you a long time. So coupling that with the war machine he already has would be would make the House Liao probably unstoppable against any single enemy. And all of their enemies are busy fighting other people, so they don't really have anyone that's hounding them, so they're able to stretch their military out. But Danai is concerned it's at the breaking point. So overall, the book's well written. It's 340 some odd pages. 345 is the final story page of the book. And there's background plots, all kinds of internal machinations, and Yeah, just overall very well written, very interesting insight into how the whole Capellan system works. They're becoming a very fleshed out state in the more recent books here, and yeah, they're generally not the mustache twirling villains that they would have been back in yesteryear's books. Danai is portrayed as a character that genuinely cares for the Capellan people. She doesn't want to have to use violence to solve problems where it's not necessary, but she's also not afraid to. And there's one particular problem where she totally commits and definitely has a very Capellan solution to it. And fate kind of forces her hand. But it's also like some inner workings of the Capellan Intelligence Agency, the Mask, and some other internal groups, all very cloak and daggery kind of stuff. So the exploration of that is covered, and like I said, a lot of it's, talking about Danai as a person and trying to explore, how she views things, and a little bit on the fact that her parents are brother and sister, and the fact that she does not care for that. And at least one other person knows this, that she didn't suspect anyone knew aside from the three of them and a handful of close relatives. So, yeah, you got a lot of that, and like the internal machinations between the three of them, because you can tell that his brother and sister, or her father and mother, who are brother and sister, do not love each other. I don't think either of them love her, and she doesn't love them. So, yeah, it's a very screwed up situation. But, and I would say there's not a lot of battle mech action. It's primarily one stretch of the book where she's trying to put down a resistance front that's forming on one of the planets, and that's where most of the mech action is. So, but other than that, it's a lot of moving around and the political machinations within the court there for House Liao, things like that. So overall, I think it's a very good book. Before I jump into spoilers, just want to give everyone the chance, if they don't want to hear the spoilers, to bail out now. Overall, I definitely recommend reading the book. It's very interesting insight into House Liao. It will help if you have read some other books, because there are definitely events from other stories that are referenced quite a bit here. The Highlander Covenant duology, the events of that, or at least the outcome of those events, are kind of important to some things that happen in here. Let's see, I think the last book dealing with Danai was called Blood Will Tell. Let's make sure. Yeah, Blood Will Tell, and that's by Jason Schmitzer. The events of that book definitely play heavily on the events of this book. And then there are some books back during the Dark Age that I don't remember exactly which ones they were, but they deal with Danai's friendship with Nicole Merrick. Nicole's the leader of House Merrick at the moment, and that gets referenced a few times. Her run-in with Caleb Davian is mentioned, so one of the other books kind of goes into that. So yeah, there are others that it would help if you've read to fully understand what's going on here, but like the one with Caleb Davian, that's something you just look up. You don't really need to read the whole book to know what's going on there. So, this is where we're going to jump off and go to spoilers here in just a moment. If you don't want to catch those, feel free to check out here. Like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. This is YouTube, you know how it goes. Sharing and commenting would help us grow the channel, it was appreciated. And subscribing, obviously, that's the name of the game here on YouTube. And thank all of you who helped us get over 500 not too long ago. And hopefully you stick around for more. So, anyway, we're going to go into spoilers. I'm not going to have a lot of spoilers, but they are Titanic spoilers. So, and no, I don't mean the boat sank. I mean, like, they're big. So, anyway, you've been warned. I told you to check out. Here come the spoilers. May as well start with the gigantic one. The Chancellor is dead. Long live the new Chancellor. In the final pages of the book, Daoshen Liao dies. And Danai becomes the new Chancellor of the Capellan Confederation. She spends the whole book not even wanting to contemplate that fate, having no desire. She even at one point says hopefully she'll die in a battle mech long before that ever happens. But Daoshen, her father, in his zeal to take Terra, they never held it, so take it, not retake it, commits to a course of action that inevitably leads the clans to counterattack in a big way. So most of the book takes place before Clan Wolf becomes the L Clan. And they are driving towards Terra, mounting forces, trying to take all the worlds around Terra because they can't get through the fortress wall. So eventually Clan Wolf launches an attack to take New Earth from the Capellans. And Daoshen, foreseeing that they would lose and wanted to blunt the clan offensive, had nuclear warheads sent to New Earth. And not just any. They were what they call salted with cobalt and something else, I don't remember. But essentially, it makes it so that the area remains radioactive for well past when it should have. And as the Capellans are being defeated, after everyone has left the surface, they fire the nukes. And so Clan Wolf gets nuked. And they start hitting back with a vengeance. Now, personally, I think pound for pound, the clans are better, but the Clan Wolf military is severely depleted after fighting the Jade Falcon, after fighting first the Republic and the Jade Falcons. So I don't really think they actually have the manpower to pursue this vengeance quest very far into Capellan space. Now they've got potentially the mechs, because again they control Earth, which can now start pumping out battle mechs. But the actual manpower, probably not. So I think they will eventually just hit the wall against the Capellans, in my opinion. However, what ends up happening, well, just slight backstory. Daoshen's personal guard retires, and his replacement is one of the characters we see in the book. And it's clear that there's some machinations going on there, because she visits her old boss at a couple points, and he's like, I'm sorry this has fallen upon you. And so I think they already knew what she was potentially going to have to do. Because even though Daoshen thinks that she's there to protect him, she's very clear whenever she says that she's there to protect the office of the Chancellor. That's the phrase she uses. Now Daoshen, in his hubris, thinks, well, obviously that means him, the occupant of the office. No, she's supposed to make sure that there's still a Capellan Confederation to exist. So at the end, after he has sidelined Danai, and I'll elaborate on that here in just a second, the clans attack. They are on the planet Lao, and they begin the attack. And they start some kind of orbital bombardment, and they hit the building where Danai, Daoshen, and all these other people are. And Danai knows that it's coming because she was outside meeting with one of the commanders of McCarran's Armored Cavalry. And I'll get to why they're meeting here in just a moment. So she hears the air raid sirens, and she knows it's the clans. So she goes and she tries to tell everyone to get down to the bunker. And Daoshen won't leave because he's a god. He's invincible. They can't possibly kill him. The madness has finally claimed him. And so she's finally just like, all right, stay here and die. I'm leaving. So she leaves. Her XO, who'd been badly injured earlier in the story, gets knocked unconscious by a blast, and she has some people carry him off. She takes one last attempt to get Daoshen out, and then an explosion rocks that room, and the ceiling falls in. She doesn't see him anymore, assumes he's dead, gets down to the bunker, seal the bunker, and finally one of the guards is like, where's the Celestial Wisdom? Where's Daoshen? She's like, he's gone. And so the guard's like, then what are your orders, Your Majesty? And she realizes now that she's in the exact position she didn't want to be in. So, up above in the room, because of one of her stunts earlier, Daoshen replaced the table with a very large, very solid iron table. And so it had protected him and his bodyguard, for the most part, from the blast. It had killed a servitor that we're introduced in at the very beginning of the book that had one of his eyes replaced with a cybernetic eye, and it transmits data to the mask so they can keep an eye on things. And he's Daoshen's personal guard. And he dies being crushed by the rubble. So his bodyguard, though, he's sitting there raving like a lunatic. He's like, "Oh, you see, even now these Mongols can't defeat me." He's like, "They can't harm me." And she slides a knife out from underneath her jacket and stabs him in the heart. And describes, like, even at the end, it's like he couldn't believe it happened. Like, he couldn't believe he wasn't immortal. And so she held him until he died. And she's like, "This is for the Capellan people, because there has to be a Capellan people," because she knows that he crossed the line using nukes against the clans like that. So, how did things get to that point? Well, the big red flag was whenever he had Xander McCarran, executed, theoretically because of the loss on Northwind, but Danai is pretty sure he would have done it would have come up with a reason, and it was ultimately to replace him with Danai. So now she's in the head. She's the general, the overarching general of McCarran's armored cavalry. And the reason she's meeting with one of the commanders there at the end is because she has decided that she is going to let them return to their mercenary roots if they so choose. Anyone that wants to stay is welcome to, but anyone that wants to leave, she's not going to fight against. And the woman tells her that, whenever groups are probably going to leave, and she's like, "That's fine." But otherwise, she's going to use them to help put down this invasion from the Duchy of Andurian. And that comes about because Ilsa tries to stop her brother in this mad quest for Terra, because the main thing keeping the Magistracy safe is the Capellan Confederation, because you're going to go through it to get to them, basically. And so she doesn't want the shield that protects her realm gone. And so initially she uses like internal sabotage teams, but that doesn't even slow them down. So then she convinces Ares Humphreys to launch the invasion into the Capellan Confederation. So they have to begin diverting resources to help put down that invasion. And initially Danai tries to appeal to her mother, and she's like, "I don't control Ares Humphreys. What are you talking about? He does whatever he wants to do." But earlier she had tried to explain to Daoshen, that this be Ilsa, that she stands to very likely inherit the Duchy of Andurian, which means that Danai stands to inherit the Duchy of Andurian, the Magistracy, and the Capellan Confederation, in which case she would fuse them into one superstate and have all their combined resources and militaries and everything else, and that she might be the one to try to take Terra, because then she would have even more resources to use to throw at the problem. So, that's the big spoiler. That, and like I said, McCarran being executed. So Daoshen is dead, and Danai is now the ruler of the Capellan Confederation, assuming she doesn't get buried in the rubble in the clan attack here. So we'll see where that goes. Didn't think that happened, but surprised me. At one point she comments on not having any kids and not wanting any kids. So I don't know. I mean, as a ruler, if you want, stability for your kingdom, you do need to have children. Me personally, I'm pulling for her, trying to win over Julian Davian, which she named her Black Knight Julian, so maybe. Because if their two realms were to merge, they could definitely oppose the clans on Terra, and the other clans for that matter. So, who knows? Maybe that's where they go with it, maybe not. But for the moment, House Liao now has a new leader. And at least so far, she's not as crazy as her father. So, we'll see where that goes. I am very interested to see where the story advances from here. And, that's most of what I can say about this one. Like I said, I thought it was very well written. It's definitely a page turner. The actions, the book itself has 3 parts, and it shows different phases of Danai's life here through some of these segments, and some of the decisions she's forced to make. And like I said, dealing with the one rebellion, she eventually calls up this internal group within McCarran's that no one knows exactly who all of them are, and they're given orders, and whatever those orders are, they go and they execute them. And she gives them orders to go, kind of get revenge for some of the things that have been happening as far as like the attacks from the rebels. And they go and like destroy a couple city blocks in the city. And she's pissed off. I'm like, what are you doing? And she's like, well, that's what you told us to do. Like, this was Flash. This was everything you told us to do. Like, we did it. And like we know now for sure we killed several of the rebels. We found all kinds of weapon caches. And so Danai tells her to leave, and she sends her people in to help rescue anyone in the rebel. And she finally comes to the guy that she had met earlier trying to discuss terms, who basically just laughed in her face, holding the little girl that he had brought with her. She was dead. And Danai tells him, you've got 6 hours to turn over all your battle mechs, and then this ends. And he tells her no, and she realizes there's not going to be any reason with this man, so she blows him away. And then she tells the rest of the city, you've got, I don't remember how much time she had, wasn't much. She's like, and then we're coming in and we're destroying the entire city. Like, that's it. That's what's going to happen, and then this is going to be over. And so that's what happens. They leave. She raises the city, and in the rebel they found all kinds of weapon caches and everything, and eventually all the battle mechs are accounted for, and that's it. That's the end of the rebellion. She did the Capellan thing and just destroyed a whole city. So, yeah. But yeah, that's the kind of things that happen in this book. So I highly recommend it if you want to know about House Liao, because like I said, they are literally the only faction covered in here. There's no Republic forces to speak of. They're all retreating to Terra. You don't see anything from the clan perspective. The only time we see the brief glimpses of the rebels on one planet, and we have Danai Centrella as an outside force, but that's it. So altogether, definitely worth a read. Don't know for sure what I'm going with next. I should be getting Fortunes of War Volume 2 in the next day or two, so might read those. Might try to read one of the real books that I bought recently. Then I've got a few other large BattleTech books. Like I've got Letter of the Law and In the Shadow of the Dragon that I haven't read yet, and a few others, and Shrapnel Volume 2, so that I can get one step closer to Volume 25, whatever the current volume is. But anyway, I'll have to see what I get into next. We'll see. Gen Con's coming up in a couple weeks. Might pick up some more books there if they've got them on sale again. This time I'll probably lose the Shrapnel issues, but who knows. Anyway, that's all I've got for this one, folks. If you're interested in the book, as per usual, there'll be an affiliate link down in the description. If you want to buy it that way, we do get a commission from those. Doesn't affect the price of the book for you or anything. But there are other places to buy them also. So anyway, that's all I've got. So let me know down in the comments. You plan on checking this one out. Anything you want to know about this book, I'll go ahead and give you the spoiler answers down there if you want them. Are you a fan of House Liao? Are you one of those people that just can't seem to get past that hatred of House Liao, to see it in its full glory? Anything at all like that. Like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Sharing and commenting help us grow the channel, and subscribing, obviously. This is YouTube. Those of you who subscribed and helped us get over the 500 mark here recently, greatly appreciate it. Hopefully you stick with us. Anyone else who's new, welcome aboard. But yeah, that's all I've got on this one. So remember, because this is BattleTech, no guts, no galaxy.